morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the EGU Podcast, bringing you experts weekly in mindset, energy, business, and all things spiritual. We are a collaborative community hub for awakening and emerging entrepreneurs to thrive. You're with Michelle Reinhardt, creator of Entrepreneurs Globally Unite, and today we're here to enhance your personal and professional life with Star Shamanism. And my guest today is Steve Nobel. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, Steve. I have to admit, your show is one of my favourites. You're on my favourites on Soundcloud.
Oh, great. Thank you.
No, you've probably heard this before, but you've put me to sleep many a time as I've been listening to meditations as I drift to sleep.
Yeah, I have heard that many times. Some people say they fall asleep with my voice in their head every night, which is, I guess that's a good thing. I don't know.
Oh well, it certainly is for me. That's for sure. It just sets the scene for a great night's sleep, and your voice is so soothing and melodic. It's really lovely to listen to.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. So Steve Nobel is an author, a coach, and the founder of Soul Matrix Healing. He trained in a number of magical spiritual systems, including shamanism, over years. He was a director of the internationally acclaimed non-for-profit organisation Alternatives, based in St James Church, Piccadilly in London for 13 years. And you can visit more information at thesoulmatrix.com. And if you need to, just check down in the show notes. All the links that you need to get more from Steve or myself will be there for the end of the show. So please, folks, grab a pen and paper and set your intention to learn a new set of game-changing strategies for personal and professional development. Turn off your zings and pings for 40 minutes as we dive into this auspicious topic. Steve, I'm excited to have you here to pick your brain. And your spiritualism has just expanded my consciousness to a whole new realm. So I'd love for you to share with our guests, please, how to navigate the energies of this time of global transition. What's going on, Steve?
Yeah, so what I understand, it's taken me a while to kind of work it out, but what I understand is the planet is going through a big transition. That transition has been going on now for some decades. And what it means is basically the planet's been shaken up. It's been shaken and stirred. A transition means something's ending, and then something will begin later on. And so something is ending on the planet. And what really is ending is the way we live on the planet. What I mean by that is the kind of strategies that's been going on at a global level of war, grabbing resources, destroying the planet for short-term gains. This is all kind of ending, although for many of us we might find that incredible to believe because it's been going on for so long seemingly. We're transitioning into something else, a new way of living on the earth, and there's the bit in between this kind of ending and new beginning, and the new beginning is still a few decades away, but the in-between bit is a certain amount of chaos, a certain amount of volatility. Old systems are crumbling on the planet. There's some very dark, think of dark systems on the planet, and perhaps one of the darkest is our financial system at the moment. And if you look at all the problems on the planet, most of them point to our financial system, the way it's set up, the kind of scarcity set up there, the kind of debt, the kind of the way it puts so many billions of people on the planet in struggle and suffering. So that the few can kind of benefit. This system is kind of a modern version of slavery, and it has to end. And it is ending. I do feel that the system's going to go through a number of major wobbles. It's already been through one in 2008. It's going to go through more wobbles. I think really what's being called for is a reinvention, a reimagination of this system. And further down the line, I think that system is going to completely be revamped. I do believe that the way we handle money is going to shift. Also, for a lot of people on the planet, a lot of spiritual people, for example, are going through big challenges around money as we're kind of preparing to clear out from our own personal space these challenges so that the global system can change. So there's a kind of a number of light workers going ahead, working with these issues before the global system can change. And I think this year and next year are going to be a powerful time for that system to start wobbling. So really, this planet I would call a dark planet for many thousands of years. And what I mean by that is it's been ruled by a kind of collective ego madness. And if you don't believe me, just look at the kind of history books or look at what's going on in the world now. You know, we've got Donald Trump threatening fire and brimstone or something on Korea, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it's almost like we've got children sometimes running the planet, you know. And I saw on Facebook something very funny which says everyone in NATO is very relieved because they put a child lock on the nuclear fire button, you know, because of Donald Trump. You know, there's a lot of jokes going around the internet now about this, but it is almost like children really running the planet. And they are a reflection of really the kind of collective ego. And what this will change when people wake up and actually demand more from their leaders. So I think every system's up for change, politically, financially. The way the corporate world is dominating the world at the moment, the way even things like government surveillance, people are stepping out and going, enough's enough. You know, the Edward Snowdens and the Julian Assanges are kind of, and as more and more transparency is happening through the internet, more and more we're looking at these things and going, gosh, that's crazy. You know, how can that be? And this is the prelude for change, really. So every prophecy on the planet points to this time. If you've looking at the Christian tradition, we've got the Book of Revelations by John, who revealed this revelation, where he saw a very dark time on the planet that ends with a period of light. And all the kind of major prophecies talk about this, the Mayan calendar, Hopi prophecies, that we're going through. We are going through a period of extreme volatility where light and dark seem in opposition on the planet, because you have more spiritual teachers on the planet now than ever probably before. And also we've got a lot of darkness. And what I mean by darkness is anti-light, anti-growth, anti-spirituality, and obsessive focus on materialism. And of course, it's nothing wrong with the material world. We want to balance it, but this is a fixation and obsession, and it becomes almost like it's a big problem anyway. You can see if you're only focused on the materialism and you deny the light, you deny your own authentic self, you deny there's anything more than the planet, you know. So this is what we're going through, this kind of transition. And where we're heading is a world that embraces more heart, more true mind, which is, I think, the balance of left and right, because our world's out of balance with this obsession with left brain, you know, logic and, you know, analysis and all this. And we've kind of disowned the right brain, intuition, imagination side. And this is returning. So we're reclaiming the heart, reclaiming our mind, we're reclaiming our spirit, which is our essential self, really. And this is what I think shamanism is about, and a lot of other spiritual paths are about.
Absolutely. So, and you went on, you mentioned lots of things that are being shaken up at the moment, and I was going to add religion as well, because that is, but you know, that's a whole topic, that's the taboo, isn't it? We won't go there today for obvious reasons. But what are people experiencing, Steve, that are noticing that things aren't like right in their worlds? I know from hearing your story many times, perhaps you'd like to embellish on that a little for people. Many of our spiritual leaders and those that are leading the charge and helping people embrace this change have been through ridiculous hardship themselves.
Yeah, I think the spiritual path is often sold through the mind-body-spirit world as this lovely, wonderful, the angels are going to find you car parking spaces and all these things. And of course, that's true. It happens.
It does work.
It does work. And this was how I first started years ago. When I heard about this, I thought, there are beings who will help me find car parking spaces. So I practiced with all this, and it kind of works. I thought, wow, there is something in this. And but there is this other side, that we're not just meant to live in wonderful big mansions with Ferraris and have wonderful holidays and meet our soulmate and just have this amazing life. This is, of course, part, you know, it's fine to have this amazing life. But really the spiritual path is about growing, it's about expanding, it's about aligning with who you truly are. And sometimes that means going through challenges, because the challenges are there to kind of almost like knock us out of this kind of fantasy world. You know, when I see a lot of these tarot cards these days of angels with big breasts and blonde hair, you know, the kind of fantasies just knock us out of it. It's really, the spirit world is there saying, hello, you know, when you came through the birth canal, you forgot your mission. We came here with a reason, and we forgot it. And then we have to be woken up. And sometimes we're woken up with a hug, sometimes with a little tap on the shoulder, sometimes with a little slap on the face. And in my life, I went to sleep. I was the kind of spiritual teenager, looking, searching. I mean, I did search in a lot of spiritual organizations and a lot of bookshops. I was looking for something. I couldn't find it. So at the age of 16, I remember deciding, you know what, I can't find whatever this thing is, and I'm going to forget it. My parents don't get it. And my future wife, I was engaged at the age of, I think, 18, wasn't getting it. So I thought, well, nobody gets it, so I'm just going to be normal. So I tried normal. And if anybody's listening, for you? Yeah, if anybody's listening to this, normal doesn't really work for long. I tried it for a long time. It ended that eventually the spirits started calling me, which is part of the shamanic path. You get called by spirits. They're going, wake up. You know, this life is not what you're meant to be doing. There's more. I was married with 2 children. I was working in the city of London in finance, banking, and I got really the slap. And I didn't understand what it was. The spirits were calling. And if you resist the calling, in shamanism anyway, you get something what they call shamanic illness. And I became severely depressed in my 20s. I actually tried to leave the planet in my late 20s. And this was quite a severe choice. And this was my first experience of spirit, because as I was leaving the planet, and I meditated, and I really decided, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. It's not a call for help. It's I'm going or I'm staying. Yeah. So I decided to go. And as I was kind of losing consciousness, I remember a voice coming in and saying, there's hope. And I was like, what is this? It wasn't my voice. It was another voice. And I was like, wow. And then I was really curious, but I was kind of bemused by, I'm just leaving the planet, and you'd wait for now to tell me. And then the voice repeated itself. And then I called for help. I picked up the phone and I called an ambulance. And that was the beginning of a whole nother journey. Wow. And yeah, that started a whole process where I resigned from that job. I went into psychotherapy. I started finding spirituality. And then I was still married. My ex-wife, now ex-wife, was very, very anti any of this stuff. And so it was a real struggle. And for a while I had to hide going to workshops. And then she found out and was furious. And eventually we couldn't stay together, because she kind of gave me, in a sense, the ultimatum, it's me or this spiritual path. And it was too strong for me to resist, you know. Yeah. It saved your life. Yeah, and that led me into this whole journey where I became a director of alternatives, this amazing organization in London, where we hosted all these amazing people, Byron Katie, Deepak Chopra, Neil Donald Walsh, you know, all these kind of characters. And I did that for 13 years. And I had an amazing time. I was diving into all kinds of spiritual paths, but then I had the spirits were calling again. And this time, when they called the second time round, I was having my ideal life. I was with my soulmate. I was in the house that we manifested. I was you know, in a job that I absolutely adored. Wow. So I wasn't going to listen to this calling. I was like, no, I've listened to you before. I'm here. I've done my bit, and I'm having this great life. And they kept calling, and I kept resisting, and that caused a major implosion in my life, where I separated from the soulmate. We sold the house, which we really loved. Oh, wow. And I resigned from alternatives. So it was a massive transition. And that was a dark night, the soul, very difficult. That took me about 4 or 5 years to come out. But on the other side, I started talking about it, you know, downloading, channeling, starseed stuff, ascension stuff, all this stuff that I'm talking about now. Yeah. And at the time, I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going on? You know, this is way out of the cosmos. But I realized that I had been resisting the calling, and I actually did have a near-death experience during that time. I nearly drowned in Greece, and it was really very strong. I remember at the time thinking I'm going to die, but I got rescued at the last minute. And I think I realize now that I was resisting the calling, and I did really nearly die. And that's near-death experience is part of the parcel if you do really resist the calling. Resisting the calling's normal. It's the matrix, the red pill and the blue pill. And if you keep taking the blue pill, then spirit will come harder after you, really. They're trying to wake you up.
Yeah. I've had that experience myself personally, so I do know, and the more I resisted, the harder they came as well.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that shamanism called you, are there other things that call people?
Well, it's, the spirits don't really care about which path you're doing. They're calling you, and not everyone will be called to shamanism, but there are all kinds of paths, and many brilliant, valid paths. But when they're calling you, it's the same. If you're resisting the calling, there's a kind of disease and a kind of tension, what I call soul tension. There's two types of tension: ego tension and soul tension. Ego tension is I'm hungry, I eat, it's gone.
Yeah.
Or, the house is dirty, I look at it, I don't feel good, I clean it up, it's fine. But soul tension is no matter what you do to jiggle your reality, to, move the furniture around, something still has a kind of sense of that something not right, I'm not on track, I'm not doing what I'm here to do. That's a deeper calling. And when you start stepping up to it, spirit calls and you usually go, no, I don't know I don't understand it, I'm confused, I can't get what you're telling me, because it's a language, the spirits start speaking to us in a language that we don't understand initially. The language will be signs and portents, it might be weird conversations, it might be dreams that are kind of odd, and you get the feeling something's up, but you don't quite know what it is. But the calling is not this way, you're heading in the wrong direction, basically.
Yeah.
You're on a boat going to Florida when we want you to go to New York, and we're kind of trying to tell you, and you're going, what? I don't get it, and so the slaps get a bit harder. And if you're really not listening, then your reality starts shaking. Something might happen. There might be a catalyst that enters your life that kind of shakes you up. For me, the first wake up was the death of my father, and that caused me to really wake up. So there's a wake up.
Yeah.
And then we get the feeling, what is true, what's authentic for me? And we start to follow it. And then as we start to follow that calling, we get signs that are showing us on track, slightly off track. And the main sense of being on track is a tremendous sense of aliveness in the body. And the main sense of being off track is a sense of disease, unease, something's not quite right, things, flow, no flow, that kind of thing. Synchronicity, no synchronicity, that kind of stuff. They're all showing us on track, off track. So you can follow any path, there's many brilliant Kabbalistic paths, there are many paths working with angels, all kinds of paths. But as long as it's true for you, it will start working. And that's the key. Is it working? Do you feel on track? Are you stepping up? Are you taking steps that you need to take? And there's a thing, I met this author many years ago called Susan Jeffers, and she wrote a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. It's a brilliant book. I recommend your listeners to get the book. And it talks all about the familiarity zone. And the familiarity zone is something where we live in and we go, this is where I feel comfortable, I feel safe. And that zone may be uncomfortable, but it's familiar. You might be married to an alcoholic, and it might be very painful, but it's familiar, and it's the bed of the devil. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that they're changing their lives by. If I use the analogy of a boat in a harbour, they take their boat in the harbour from one side of the harbour and put it on the other side where the sun's a bit better, and go, I've changed my life, I've changed my boyfriend or girlfriend, I've changed my job. But fundamentally nothing has changed, because Spirit's going, no, we don't want you to move around the harbour. We want you to move out into the sea, because we want you to go across that sea. And you're going, no, that sea's dangerous, it's deep, it's got storms. And you got the Spirit's going, get out there. And you resist it. Resistance is normal, actually. To the calling is normal. But eventually there's only one way, and that's out. And that means a shake-up of reality. And it takes courage. For anyone listening to this going, I know I've got to shake my life up, it does take courage. And there's also a timing. It's not about throwing yourself into the void. When spirits call, and there's a timing when you take the step. It's not about just throwing yourself out there, because if your ego's saying, just throw this job in and start a new business, if it comes from the ego, you're heading for a problem. Partly, how do I know it's coming from my ego and it's coming from spirit, That's a whole question in itself, really.
Well, it is. It is.
Yeah.
But if you come back to the feeling with it, if it feels light, it's right.
Yeah.
You know, if it feels heavy and it fills you with dread, then it's not the right path.
Yeah, if your heart, you have to really tune in. And a lot of people are living in their heads and disconnected from their body. And most shamanic paths and a lot of spiritual paths are body-orientated paths. So intuition comes through the body, it comes through the emotional field. So if you're listening to your head, which is your ego only, and making decisions there, you're heading for trouble. But if you're taking the decision, you know, should I go left or right, or should I take that job or whatever? And you tune in to your body, the body will have a different answer often from the head. And the body is the one to follow. The feeling is the one to follow, not the emotional reaction. There's a feeling which is gentler, it's softer. That's the one to follow. So it takes time. You have to tune into it to really, it's like tuning a radio and you go, oh, there it is. That's the gentle voice. That's the gentle feeling. I actually get the feeling now it's time to leave. But my head's going, no. The money's good. This is what happened to me when I left.
I was just thinking
career.
That.
Yeah, I had a career in banking in the local government. And in local government, I remember asking the universe, this is when I was connected to the spirits, should I resign? I asked a very specific question, and then I got the answer while at lunch break one day, 24 hours after asking the question. I was walking down Brixton Acre Lane, where I was working, and there was a guy with a T-shirt, and the T-shirt on the back was a Nike sign, "Just Do It." And I looked at it, and it hit me like a thunderbolt. This is a sign. My body was just like, wow, that's the answer. I know it's the answer. And then my head went, you must be joking. You're throwing in this career from this T-shirt. Are you kidding? And then within 2 minutes, I saw the same sign in a window, and I resigned the next day. And it was the best decision. It was actually the perfect timing, because I resigned at the right time to go to alternatives, because the opening happened there, and then I had this amazing adventure there. So timing was perfect, actually.
I've had signs on buses, and my whole body's just gone into goosebumps, and it's just like, okay, all right, I'm listening.
Yeah.
It is. It's extraordinary when you do allow yourself to get out of your head and into your heart, and you start to feel. It is a different language, because we are hardwired. Our ego is strong. It knows best for us, so it thinks, and it's like learning a different language, isn't it?
Yeah, because we're in this time of change and vibration is changing. The ego was fine for us as a protection mechanism in 3D. 3D is the old world of light versus dark, male, all these schisms, split us versus them, male and female are kind of at war with each other. The ego is set up to defend ourselves in a difficult world. But when we start moving into a more loving world, we don't need the ego in the same way. We can start shifting the ego up to become a safe vessel for our spirit. This is part of the spiritual journey. The ego shifts and transforms. Yeah. So early on in the journey, the ego becomes a resistance force. You must be kidding. You're not doing that. You have an intuition and the mind comes in and goes, no. But later on in the journey, the ego softens and becomes more one with your journey. That's the part of the journey.
That's the goal. That is the goal. Yeah. And I have heard lots of teachers suggest that the ego is bad. You have to leave it behind and all that sort of stuff. I completely disagree. Just change the rules, bring it with you. You'll be a lot stronger and safer and happier with the completeness of it all, because it's going to come back and bite you if you don't upgrade.
Yeah, you have to love and soften the ego, not kill it. Definitely not kill it, because the ego is part of your energy field and it can be transformed. Imagine a part of you that got a bit stuck at the age of 5, like a little 5-year-old has tantrums or sulks, and you go, I want to kill that part. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. What you want to do is love it and upgrade it and transform it, because that's what it needed at the time and didn't get it. Absolutely. I completely agree. And unfortunately, our parents, and bless them, they did the best they could. It's certainly not the way to raise a child in this energy world that we're moving into. Yeah. It's probably I was born in the late 50s, so my parents had the values of post-war, Second World War values, rationing and everything's hard. You got to work hard, be a cog in a machine. And that wasn't me in the emerging 60s. It was a very different value sets coming up, and my parents didn't like it, didn't understand it, and I was really drawn to all these beatnik kind of hippie culture, and they would switch the telly off when any of it came. They go, no, that's not for you. You follow us because we know the way. And this is the trouble for parents, really, because we don't know the way, because the world's transforming so fast that if we try and impose our value sets on our kids, even us with spiritual values, they'll reject them because they have different values. So it's really, what is the values of our children, and really pulling them out or nurturing that, rather than just trying to force something on them which won't fit them. You know? And then they have to do therapy to undo. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly right. Steve, could you share with us a little more about shamanism and how you work with people? I've had a good look around your site, and I know that you do energy extraction, soul loss retrieval. Could you share a little bit more about that with us, please?
Okay. Well, the work, I trained classically in shamanism, and I do a lot of the classical techniques, and it's shamanic journeying, which is journeying into the spirit worlds. And there are many spirit worlds. Classically, there are three worlds that in shamanism we talk about: lower, middle, and upper. The lower world is the world where we meet all kinds of teachers, crystal, stone, mineral beings, plant beings, animal protecting spirits. And shamanism was very strong on working with animal protection spirits. And there's the middle world, which is this world, which we can kind of call for help in this world, this middle world, or the astral plane as well. We can even journey in this world. For example, I had a friend who, if she wanted to check out, this was before internet, and Google and everything. If she wanted to check a hotel in Brighton, she'd travel there astrally and check out the different hotels. You can do that if you're really good at it. And you can go and check out how your partner's doing across the other side of the world if you want to. That's the kind of stuff you can do in the middle world. The upper world is where you do connect with beings like angels, various master guides, teachers like Buddha and Christ around the upper world. There are a lot of star beings, which is what I'm very interested in, which is why I call it Star Shamanism. Because of this time on the planet, there are a lot of what I call star seeds here. Star seeds are beings who naturally have not been very long in this reincarnational cycle, or their natural history is elsewhere in other worlds, other dimensions, other star systems. So at this time of transition, there are a lot of star beings who are very focused on this planet, and beings from places like Orion, Sirius, Pleiades, Antares, these kind of Andromeda. And a lot of starseeds who have those kind of karmic connections with these beings can actually work with them. And these guys are really calling to come and work with starseeds, because they're very helpful in helping the starseeds wake up to more levels of their light body and get really on track. So these are the three worlds you can work in. And within these three worlds, there are many subdivisions. There are many kind of sub-worlds you can go to. The shamanic journey is taken really for healing, advice. You can go and ask questions. Or for power. So healing, advice, or power. And for power, I'm not talking about power over. In shamanism, they have there's distinctions about power. You can have power over, which is the classical one we have in the world now. There's popes and there's generals and there's politicians, power over. There's power within, which is when we really connect to our inner light. And it's really kind of connecting to power within. And the other form of power is power with. So there's power from our inner light, and there's power from the light of other beings in the universe. So we can connect to these levels of power. Okay. So that's why I'm talking about power. And you can think of power as energy, really.
Yes.
Energy extraction and soul loss and soul retrieval are connected. And I'll talk about soul loss first, because it connects to energy extraction and soul retrieval. So soul loss happens. Well, let me say, first of all, that soul loss is endemic in Western civilization, actually.
Yes.
I think it's everywhere, because of the way we live, disconnected from the land. We live in a culture where we go through kind of trauma and shock. It's not like the old tribal cultures where we're kind of held, in a kind of net of love, in a way. Yes, they had initiations which were challenging, but they were meant to wake us up. We also don't have those initiations anymore, so we don't wake up to who we truly are. So we live in a world where even our birth is a shock. We may have been held up by our toes and slapped, all this kind of thing. We go through various childhood shocks, adolescent shocks, and any time we have a trauma in our life is a time when we can lose parts of our light, soul loss. And in shamanism, they have a different definition of soul than Christianity. In Christianity, the idea of a soul is something that we have, that we possess, that we could potentially lose. You know, there's a soul somewhere that, you know, what is it? What's the point in gaining the world and losing your soul? These ideas, you know, which is a kind of good metaphor. But shamanism has this idea that soul is everywhere in the body. So your heart could have a piece of soul, your liver could have a piece of soul, your bones, your blood, parts of your light body. Your inner child is parts of your soul, your inner adolescent. These are parts of our ego selves which should stay with us, really, as we grow up. You know, as we grow through childhood, we grow through times of play, creativity, fun, joy, and they should stay with us, really. But sometimes, for example, in childhood, if we go through shocks, we may lose our fun, we may lose our creativity. They leave us because they see us as not safe containers. There's a great story I heard years ago of a guy who had 2 young daughters, and they're both very artistic. And he came home one day, and one of the youngest daughter, I think, painted a big mural on one of his white walls, you know, a kiddie mural. She thought it was great. Dad would love it.
I bet she did.
Dad went ballistic. And what happened for her was she never
shut down.
She shut down the creativity, whereas her sister went on to be an artist. So she lost her artistic soul. And that would need to be called back. And you can call these things back. Someone might have a shock in adolescence around sexuality, and they lose part of their soul around their kind of sexual energy or sexual curiosity. We might go into the world of work and find ourselves just shutting down parts of our excitement around, you know, our resourcefulness gets shut down because we're put in a box. And, you know, on a factory line, and we go, and we just kind of lose our light. We get dulled. So all this is light which we lose and can be called back. That's part of soul retrieval.
This is the inner power, yes?
This is parts of our, you could call it soul or our light field. Our light field has many layers, and that layer is made up of our inner child, inner adolescent, inner adult, all these archetypal energies, you know, the inner shaman, the inner magician, the inner wise person, the inner, you know, it might be a parts of our emotional field. We might not be able to access our joy, our fun. I've met people who are completely serious. They can't access. You must have met them, Michelle, as well.
Oh, I have.
You look at them and they're like, where's your fun? It's gone. You shake them. And they've lost it. If we lose our soul light, basically it creates voids in our energy field. Now, nature abhors a vacuum, and these vacuums get filled with energies from the universe, from nature, from elemental energies, and from other people's energy. So we can take on energy from other people, and a lot of very sensitive people, spiritual people, are like sponges. They absorb energy. So you can take on energy from your family, your colleagues, your friends, your workplace. You absorb it in your energy field, and you fill these voids. But unfortunately, those energies are no good for you.
No, they're not yours.
They're not yours. They can be toxic. They can even turn into disease. You know, some illnesses like cancers can be, a lot of illness in the body is actually, one of the problems is foreign energy in the body that shouldn't be there. You have to pull it out. So energy extraction is techniques in pulling out other people's energy. And once you pull it out, we then call back more of your own true light into the body. In shamanism, they say, they have a very good idea around psychic defense. They say the best form of psychic defense is filling your body and your light field with so much light and power that nothing can get in. It's not about shielding and, you know, doing 5 stars and here and there. So that's their view, and I really agree with that.
I do 100%. And the deeper you breathe, and that's where a lot of people fall into a lot of problems, because they get anxious and they shallow breathe, so they're not allowing that light into their body.
Yeah, it's true. Now, the thing with soul loss is we don't call the light back into our body initially. The technique is we call it back into, I use crystals a lot, so etheric crystals. And we get the light to be called back into these crystals, and we send it to the higher self for healing, transforming, cleansing, and returning at the right time, right place. Because I did this once. I did soul loss, and I pulled back all this light in my body, and then I collapsed for about 2 weeks because I was dealing with all the memory and trauma that left me in the first place. and you don't want to deal with that, because it left with a trauma, and you call it back, it's still got the trauma. So that trauma can be siphoned, filtered out. So you don't have to have the trauma. Definitely. Trauma.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you bring up, Steve, for anyone because a lot of these people can do for themselves, working with energy. Once you learn the tricks and the tips, because you don't want to be bringing in dirty energy. It's damaging.
Yeah, on my YouTube channel and website, there's transmissions. I think lower energy extraction transmission is on the website and on the YouTube channel. And then for soul retrieval, there's under something called the Isis transmission. I've connected to the goddess Isis and called back soul parts. So those two you can use.
Beautiful.
But if you feel a bit stuck, it's good to know someone who works with this, so you can actually get introduced. Once you've got the introduction, then you can do. I mean, a lot of shamans say you can't do it for yourself, but I actually think nowadays you can. But it's good to have the introduction first.
Absolutely. You need to know what you're working with. You need to be informed, and you need to, create your own discernment around the practices that you choose as well.
Yeah, and you may need to be introduced to your spirit allies, which is a very important part of this. So once you're introduced to your spirit allies, it's like you get the introduction and off you go. And these allies can be angels, they can be animal spirits, they can be plants, they can be stone beings, they can be star beings. And a lot of people sense them but can't connect to them. So if you get a kind of connection, you're connected, and then off you go. So and they really become the teachers. They take over, really. Yeah,
absolutely. Isn't it beautiful that in this day and age we've moved from like straight up business coaches and life coaches into spiritual coaches that encompass all of that, because we are an entire complete being, and there's no point working on one part of your life if you're not going to embrace it all.
Exactly. And I know that you work a lot with entrepreneurs, and people might be listening to this thinking, well, that's all very well. It's a nice spiritual path. How does it relate to work, business, money? But I find I was a director of alternatives for 13 years. I used all of this in that business. I used it for calling in. If we wanted a spiritual teacher that we couldn't access, like I remember Richard Bandler, the NLP founder, we wanted to have him come and do something. And then we called him through the spirit world, and then we found someone to give us the introduction, And we did the same with Deepak Chopra. So we got connected through the spirit world first, and then we got all these connections. And, I would always work with the spirit allies of the organization. And I think people felt a different energy in the organization. It wasn't like an ego organization. It was an organization of service, spirit. And we, financially, it shot through the roof, So it's not just a nice little technique that you can do. And, in my own business, again, I work this way, and I'm getting clients coming out my ears, so people will sense the energy coming from your business, whether your service. I mean, generally, I'm doing this because, yes, of course, money's great. It keeps the business flowing. But I live quite a simple life. I don't need lots of money, but I do want to reach as many people as possible.
Yes.
And my YouTube channel has reached over 200,000 in 7 months, and that's great. I want to reach 1 million people as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and that's hugely admirable, Steve. Congratulations. And it is the air of service that I sense from you. And as you said, with the entrepreneurs that will be tuning in and listening and hearing this message, in this time of global transition, guys and girls, it is vital that your business has the right energy.
Yeah.
So that it can call in the right people, and you can then go on to serve more.
Yeah, I think in the past, the entrepreneur with the biggest ego or the biggest risk taking, could do very well, the Richard Bransons and these kind of types. But more and more, I think people are drawn to smaller businesses with real vision and creativity and a real powerful story behind it and a sense of service. So I think, yes, there's these big organizations that are out there, and, things like Google have a great vision, but more and more people are drawn to vision and energy rather than, some ego story or something,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really, and everyone has to have a balance. There's a balance between service to self, which is about money, practicalities about business, how you're doing about, getting out there, and service to other. It's a really good balance. And the balance should always tip towards service to other. You should be really interested in serving the planet in some way, and then being rewarded for that, so that you can continue the journey. Money is just fuel. It's energy. Money is energy, and it's fuel. If you're a little spaceship that's going between planet to planet, you don't want to run out of fuel halfway.
No, you don't.
But the point of the journey is not the money. The point of the journey is, are you here doing what you want to do? Are you aligned with your soul purpose? Are you on fire? I get up in the morning going, yay, let's get going, or are you kind of not feeling that way? This is and it is possible. A lot of people are here now to wake up in this time to what they're really here to do, not to live a comfortable life. And I know that's challenging, but it means doing. Sometimes, what the business I'm doing, even 10 years ago, I would never have even dreamed of doing this. I'd have thought, there's no way I'm going to do this stuff.
Yeah, I agree completely.
And I was at Alternatives, which was already far out there, and now I think I've gone even further out there.
Yeah, and there's so much more to come, isn't there?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. So, Steve, we're just about winding up now, but I'd love to invite you to dive into the new grids of light within and around the planet, which will expand our capacity for miracles.
Yes, so all the transmissions I do, which are on my YouTube and website, you can find them there, are linked it's working with energies and creating grids. And I work with two sets of grids. There's the Earth grid and called the Christ grid. The Christ grid is really a new energy that's been bombarding the planet now for quite a few decades. It's coming through the sun, originating from the central sun, and it's carrying a lot of high frequency energies, calling people to wake up. So the other energy is one that's coming from the Earth itself, and it's a new Earth grid called a crystalline Earth grid. Yeah. And for a lot of people who want to wake up, so one of the circuits I teach is connecting to the solar grid, which is the grid above, coming down the descending grid, which is a kind of golden white fiery grid, and the ascending grid from the Earth, which I see as a silver white firing grid. Yeah. And when we connect these two grids in the heart, we can then open the inner channel, because energy needs to flow from point to point. So flowing downwards from the sun into the Earth and flowing upwards from the Earth into the sun, we can expand the inner channel, open the inner channel. Once these grids are in place, we can also work with angelic grids. So in the transmissions, I work with angelic grids. But we can also upgrade our chakra system. And the chakra system is going from a 3D 7-center system to a 5D 12-center system. And this is something I do in the one-to-one sessions, which is upgrading people's energy field to really, once we're aligned with these grids, and we need to dissolve the old Earth grid, because a lot of us are still connected to the old grid, we need to get rid of that, because that's just with intention, just ask to dissolve it, because that's the old karma of the Earth. We don't want that. The karma of the Earth is pointing to a new Earth, a new Alpha Earth, which is still some decades away, but we want to really align with that higher frequency energies. Yes, yeah. And then once we really align with these grids and really get our lives on track, we find that we live in a whole different reality. One of synchronicity, miracles flow. This whole law of attraction thing. Law of attraction only makes sense at a higher frequency. If you're in 3D, it makes no sense whatsoever. You're attracting. Yes, you are attracting, but you're not attracting what you want. You're attracting what you don't want, basically. Exactly. Yeah, I could not agree more. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. So there's a lot of stuff on the website. You can practice with the grids, and I do it every day. The grids are my saving grace, really.
Love it, Steve. You've got me really curious for more knowledge with regards to this, and I'm quite sure you've helped a lot of people to just open their minds and just be more aware of what is out there. This is really tough to take on your own. Yeah. You can just do things so much quicker by reaching out with someone that you resonate with, that you align with, that you want to learn from, that will be right.
Yeah, that's sure. We need support in this time. And then the support comes from the spirit world. But things like the shows you're doing, stuff I'm doing, this kind of support is essential, because we're not here to do it on our own, really. We need help.
We do need help. We do need help. And on that note, Steve, I'd like to thank you enormously for being here today, for connecting with my audience, and for those that need to hear your message, for your call, your answer to your call for service.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Michelle, for having me.
It's a pleasure. Could you just remind people where they can find you, Steve?
So thesoulmatrix.com is my website, and on YouTube is Steve Nobel. You'll find my channel there.
Fantastic. Well, I extend much love and light and joy into your day. Steve, thank you very much for joining us. And to our beautiful entrepreneurs out there, remember, guys and girls, shine bright. That is why you're here. We are here to help. If we can, we would be delighted to. And until next week, that's all for now. Goodbye, guys. Bye, Steve.
Thanks, Michelle. Send me the link when it's ready.
I sure will. See ya.
Okay. See you, Michelle.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.